Hey traveler, welcome to a time before fire, before farming, before history itself. Tonight, we step inside the quiet, mysterious life of the caveman. What did they actually do all day? The sun isn't up yet. But the birds? Already gossiping. Somewhere deep in the forest, a sleepy caveman opens one eye. Not because he wants to, but because the world outside is noisy, and there's no such thing as blackout curtains in 10,000 BC. He stretches. There's no soft bed, no pillow, no snooze button. Just a pile of animal skins under him and a chilly breeze poking his back. Beside him, his family, his mate, his little one, maybe even grandma and a couple of sleepy neighbors. That's right. Caves weren't private homes. They were one big Airbnb, no locks, no doors, and everyone snoring together. But here's the cool part, waking up wasn't stressful. No office. No traffic. No unread emails. The only job? Stay alive, find food, and don't get eaten. The first thing they do. Before anything else, the caveman checks the fire. Fire is everything. It's warmth, safety, light, cooking, and comfort. If the fire is out, big trouble. Cold night, raw food, and maybe a visit from a curious saber-toothed cat. So he pokes around. Blows gently. Adds some dry twigs. Boom, tiny flames come back to life. Success. Next stop. Water. Now, don't imagine a fancy water filter or a glass bottle. Nope. Water came from the river nearby, or a puddle if they were lucky. Sometimes they stored it in big animal horns or coconut shells. But mostly, you walk, squat, and sip. Cavemen didn't rush unlike today's world. Cavemen didn't start their day with panic. No gym, no meetings, no, what should I wear today, stress. They lived slow. The morning routine was simple. Wake up, keep the fire going, stretch a bit, maybe yawn loudly. That's allowed, then look around. Okay, who's on food duty? What did their morning look like? Let's picture the scene. A misty forest. Birds flying low. Insects buzzing like tiny alarm clocks. Somewhere, two kids are giggling as they poke a lizard with a stick. An elder sits on a rock, picking seeds out of their hair. A young woman sharpens a stone tool with slow, careful hands. The air smells like burnt wood and wet soil, and in the middle of it all, our caveman is looking around for breakfast. No breakfast cereal. No toast. No coffee. Yeah, tough life. A typical morning snack might be leftover roasted meat from last night, a handful of berries, a raw egg from a bird's nest, yum, maybe some wild honey if you were lucky, and brave enough to face bees. Fruit was always welcome. But you had to know what was safe. One wrong berry, and boom, stomach disaster. That's why elders were important. They knew what was food and what was dupes. Morning chats were mostly quiet. No one really spoke much in the morning. Not because they were introverts, but because early language was still developing. Grunts, gestures, pointing, that was enough. Imagine trying to say, "Pass me the spear," using only your eyebrows and a shoulder shrug. Yep, that's talent. Over time, those gestures became sounds. Those sounds became words. But in this early morning scene, everything was simple. A look. A nod. A shared understanding. Personal hygiene? Kind of. Did cavemen brush their teeth? Not really, but they did chew certain sticks and leaves that helped clean their mouths. Some tribes used charcoal or rough grass. Baths? Usually in rivers. Shampoo? Nope. Just water and maybe a mud scrub if you were feeling fancy. And yet, their skin was healthy. Their hair was strong. Maybe nature knew what it was doing. Clothing check, are you wearing a deer? Before heading out, our caveman grabs his outfit. Not from a closet. From a wooden stick where yesterday's deer skin is hanging. It's tied around the waist with vine rope. Warm, soft, and slightly smelly. Shoes? Maybe, made of animal hide. Or bare feet, tough as leather. There were no mirrors. No fashion rules. Just dress for survival. And if it looked cool, hey, bonus points. The tribe gathers as the sun rises higher, more people wake up. The cave gets noisy. Children chase each other. Someone sharpens tools. Another person checks the trap set the night before. The tribe talks about the plan for the day, not with sentences, but with signs. 2 fingers in the air might mean, hunt today. A circle drawn in dirt could mean, go around the lake. A frown might mean, stay close, danger nearby. These meetings were short. No boardrooms. Just action. What about the lazy ones? Good question. If someone didn't contribute, didn't hunt, gather, cook, or help, they'd eventually be left out. Cavemen didn't run on kindness alone. Survival needed teamwork. Everyone had a role. But hey, if you were sick or injured, the group took care of you. Elders were respected. Children were protected. It wasn't all tough love. It was balance. Last morning task, sharpen and check before leaving the cave. Our caveman checks his gear. Stone-tipped spear, white heavy check mark. Animal skin pouch, white heavy check mark. Rope made from twisted bark, white heavy check mark. Lucky tooth necklace, you never know, white heavy check mark. Once ready, he steps outside. The world is huge. Wild. Full of danger and wonder. And the day? Just getting started. The forest is awake now. The sun peeks through the trees like a sleepy eye. Birds sing louder. Bugs buzz in every direction. The wind sways leaves like a lullaby, but our caveman isn't here to enjoy poetry. His stomach just growled louder than a lion. It's breakfast time, and he's got nothing in hand but a stick. No fridge. No bakery. No mom yelling, "Poha is ready." Just trees, rocks, dirt, and the hope that something edible is out there. Breakfast starts with the eyes. Cavemen didn't eat out of habit. They ate when they found food. It wasn't 9 a.m., must eat oats. It was, eyes, Is that a berry bush? Nose, does it smell fresh? Nauseated face, will this kill me? They trusted their eyes, nose, and tongue. And honestly, it was a gamble every day. The foraging walk begins. Our caveman walks barefoot through damp grass. He checks under rocks, peeks behind bushes. He's looking for wild berries, strawberry, edible leaves, herb, bird eggs, egg, nuts and seeds, maybe even a sleepy lizard. Breakfast equals protein, not taste. He carries a small pouch made from animal skin. It hangs around his waist like a caveman fanny pack. Each find goes in, like collecting mini treasures. Not every berry is your bestie. One of the biggest dangers of foraging. Poisonous plants. Some berries look juicy but act like tiny assassins. Others taste sweet but make your stomach do flips. So how did cavemen avoid them? Elders' wisdom. They knew what plants were safe. Trial and error. Someone once ate it and survived, or didn't. Grimacing face, animal clues. If a bird eats it and flies, fine, probably safe. If it drops dead? Big no-no. Still, mistakes happened. And when they did, let's just say the tribe had to find new bathroom spots real fast. The egg jackpot. Our caveman spots a low tree with a nest. He climbs slowly. Grabs 2 warm eggs. No bird around, lucky. He cracks one open, drinks it raw. It's slimy, warm, and full of protein. Gordon Ramsay might cry, but this is top-tier fuel in caveman terms. What about meat? Hunting takes time. It's not a quick, grab-and-go meal. But sometimes, cavemen found dead animals, freshly killed by another predator. If it looked fresh, not rotten, they'd take a bite or carry some back. Scavenging wasn't shameful, it was smart. Still, it's risky. Lions don't love sharing. So breakfast meat was rare. Mostly, it was plants, eggs, and whatever you could bite without dying. Cavemen didn't eat alone. Eating was a group activity. If you found something big, like a honeycomb, a pile of nuts, or a fallen fruit tree, you'd call others. Not out of kindness, but because you couldn't eat it all alone, and if you didn't share, well, let's just say social life would be awkward. Sharing built trust. It showed your worth in the tribe. Also, nobody wanted to fight over food first thing in the morning. What kids ate? Kids followed the foragers, usually women and elders. They'd snack on soft fruits, chew roots, eat leftovers, beg for honey, like caveman candy. Sometimes they got lucky and found bird eggs or small insects. Yes, bugs. Crunchy, full of protein, and surprisingly filling. Imagine, beta, kush raho. Aaj tumher liya ek extra bada kita mila hai. A heartfelt moment, truly. Tools of the breakfast hunt. You think it's just bare hands? Nope. Cavemen carried digging sticks to find underground roots, stone scrapers to peel bark or clean eggs, sling pouches to hold fine sharp stones in case they had to fight a raccoon for a mango. It happens, they didn't waste energy. Every tool had a use. Every step was careful. The sweetest discovery, honey. If our caveman was really lucky, he'd find a beehive. Now, getting honey wasn't easy. It involved smoke to calm bees, climbing trees, getting stung a lot, and stealing just enough to run, but oh, that reward. Thick, golden honey. Cavemen probably didn't even have a word for sweet, but their eyes lit up when they tasted it. Nature's dessert, rare, risky, and loved. Back to camp after foraging for an hour or two, our caveman heads back. His pouch is half full. He's got 3 eggs, some purple berries, a bunch of crunchy leaves, a grub worm, still wiggling, and a handful of roots that smell weird, but it's enough. It's breakfast. And everyone back at the cave is waiting. Breakfast is shared, not served. No plates. No spoons. No table. Everyone sits on the ground. Food goes in the middle. You grab what you like. Elders first. Then kids. Then everyone else. There's chewing. No talking. Just appreciation for another safe morning. If someone brought a rare item, like honey or mushrooms, they became a mini-hero for the day. Look what Krog found. Wow, again? That guy's lucky. Let's sit near him during dinner too. Did they say grace? Not really. But many tribes had a moment of silence. A quiet thank you to nature. A look at the sky. A grunt that meant, not bad. For them, food was sacred. Not because of calories, but because it meant they survived another day. And then, the next task begins. With breakfast over, the real day starts, hunting, crafting tools, tending to the fire, exploring new spots. But first, one last berry. Because let's face it, who doesn't like a snack after breakfast? So, the caveman has eaten his wild berries, slurped an egg, maybe wrestled a worm, and now it's time to get dressed. Wait, dressed? Yes. Even cavemen had fashion. Kind of. Let's step inside their wild little wardrobe. Now, let's be clear. Cavemen didn't walk around totally naked like cartoons make it seem. Well, not always. Depending on the weather, the season, or what animal they recently chased away, cavemen wore what they had, what they could hunt, or what they could stitch together with a bone needle and sheer willpower. They had style. They had technique. And, they had fur. Lots of it. The basics of caveman dressing clothes weren't about trends. They were about not freezing to death. But survival didn't mean boring. Every piece of clothing had a story. A tunic made of deer hide, a belt crafted from twisted bark, a pouch hanging from the hip, stitched from squirrel skin, maybe even a necklace made of teeth, casual but bold. Each item was handmade. Every stitch mattered. And nothing, absolutely nothing, went to waste. How they made clothes: Step 1, hunt. Step 2, skin the animal. Step 3, dry the hide under the sun. Step 4, scrape it with a rock to soften it. Step 5, stitch pieces together using sinew, animal tendon, and bone needles. No sewing machines. No thread. Just raw talent and a deep desire not to walk around cold. Weather decided the outfit if it was cold. You layered up, Double hide tunic, fur shoulder wrap, leather boots stuffed with dry moss, animal skull hat if you were feeling dramatic, if it was hot. Simpler, light wrap around the waist, minimal accessories, maybe a leafy headband just for flare, rain. No umbrellas. But some clever tribes made cloaks from wide leaves or water-resistant bark. Stylish and smart. Footwear, the original barefoot trend most of the time, cavemen walked barefoot. Their soles were tough, like natural shoes, but in rocky or snowy areas, they made simple sandals from animal hide. No arch support. No laces. No Air Jordan 10,000 B.C. edition. Just flat, raw, handmade leather strapped with vines. Not comfy, but it got the job done. Accessories were a thing, believe it or not. Cavemen accessorized. Not for Instagram. But for symbolism, identity, spiritual beliefs, or just to look cooler than the guy next. Cave common accessories: bone necklaces, claw bracelets, feather earrings, teeth pendants, shell crowns. Some even wore painted stones or dyed their skin with crushed berries or clay. That's right, prehistoric makeup. Hair game, wild and free, no salons. No razors. Just nature. Men often had long, tangled hair and beards. Women too, with thick braids or loose curls, sometimes decorated with twigs or bones. If someone got a haircut, it was either an accident with a sharp rock, a punishment, or lice problems. Yes, that existed, but mostly, the messier, the better. Hair was power. Smell? Let's not go there, let's be honest. Cavemen didn't wear perfume, but they had their own scent, a mix of smoke, sweat, animal fat, forest leaves. Some tribes used herbs like mint, lavender, or crushed flowers to mask body odor. Others just accepted the stank and owned it like royalty. Remember, in a world without shampoo, confidence is everything. Dressing for rituals and festivals. Cavemen didn't party every day. But when they did, they dressed up. Special occasions called for painted faces, animal masks, full-body fur suits, dancing skirts made of grass, even paint all over the body using clay, ash, or crushed bugs. These looks weren't just fashion. They told stories. They honored spirits. They scared enemies. And they made tribe members feel powerful. Even in ancient times, dress to impress was a real thing. Gender and clothing: did men and women dress differently? Sometimes. But not always. In many tribes, both genders wore wraps, cloaks, or belts. The difference was often in accessories. Women might wear more beads, men might wear more animal bones. Kids wore the least, usually just a smile and some dirt. No strict rules. Just what made sense. Caveman style icons: every tribe had that one person. You know, the stylish one who had the softest fur cloak, wore matching bones on both wrists, made a new kind of belt no one else thought of, walked with that extra cave swagger. Others copied them. Trends were born. And just like that, Stone Age fashion moved forward. Clothing meant status: a guy wearing bear fur? Dangerous hunter. A girl with eagle feathers? Respected elder's daughter. A child in ragged skin? Maybe still learning the ropes. Clothes weren't just for warmth. They told people who you were. They screamed, "Look what I survived," or "I brought this back from the mountain." Even without language, fashion was communication. Cavemen and laundry? Nope. Clothes got dirty. You brushed off dirt. Maybe rinsed them in a river if things got too gross. But daily laundry? Not a thing. Imagine trying to clean a heavy, blood-stained bare skin with no soap. You'd rather just wear it anyway. So yes, cavemen were stylish. But not spotless. One last look before leaving the cave. Before stepping out for the hunt, our caveman checks himself: spear? White heavy checkmark, fur wrap? White heavy checkmark, good luck tooth necklace? White heavy checkmark, mud war paint? White heavy checkmark, hair? Wild. Perfect. He steps into the forest, ready to be seen. Not because anyone is watching. But because even in the Stone Age, style mattered. Alright, tribe, the fire is lit, the berries are eaten, and our caveman is all dressed up. But before he heads out to face wild beasts and the untamed world, he needs his most important friends, his tools. Let's step into the original workshop of humanity. Ever tried building a spear without glue, nails, or power tools? Well, our caveman does it every day. And not for fun. For food. For fire. For safety. For survival. Welcome to Stone Age DIY, where everything's handmade, nothing's quick, and each mistake could cost your lunch, or your life. Tools were everything. Cavemen didn't have furniture. No chairs. No tables. No shelves. But they had tools. Because tools meant control. With tools, you could hunt better, cut faster, build safer, protect stronger, and even impress that special someone across the fire circle. Fire heart with arrow. Tools were not optional. They were lifelines. The first toolbox, a very heavy one. Let's peek into a typical caveman's gear: sharp-edged stone, multipurpose, cut meat, shape wood, open fruits, hand axe, thick and solid, perfect for smashing bones or trees. Spearhead, carved from stone or bone, tied to a stick. Scraper, used to clean animal hides or sharpen other tools. Digging stick, not fancy, but helped reach deep roots or worms. Hammerstone, a round rock used to shape or smash other rocks. Fire drill, to spark a flame, after many tries and sore arms. There were no compartments. No labels. Just a pile of useful things tucked in corners or hung with vine ropes. Making a tool was a whole event. You couldn't just wish for a tool. You had to make it. Carefully. Step 1. Find the right stone. Not all rocks are equal. Cavemen looked for flint, for sharpness; obsidian, volcanic glass, dangerously sharp; basalt, heavy and strong; quartzite, tough but shapeable. They didn't study geology. They used trial and error. This breaks easier. This cuts better. This one sucks. Step 2. Shape it. You'd hold one stone in each hand and smack them together with care. Too soft. It cracks. Wrong angle. It flies into your eye. This process was called flint knapping, and it took patience. Tick, tick, tap. A tiny shard falls off. Tap, tap. Edges become sharper. Now it's ready. Step 3. Add a handle. Stone tools were cool, but sharp rocks hurt your hand. So they'd tie them to sticks using animal sinew, dried muscle, vines, tree sap as glue. The result? A deadly caveman creation that could cut, smash, and survive. Toolmaking was a social skill. Some people were naturally better at making tools. Those folks? Tribe VIPs. You'd often hear, "Give it to Krog. He's got the touch. Ask Byra. Her axes last longer. Wow, look at the edge on that scraper. Who made this?" They didn't get trophies. But they earned respect. And sometimes, extra berries. Tools passed through generations. Good tools didn't die with their owners. If someone passed away, their tools stayed in the tribe. Sometimes buried with them. Sometimes given to their kids. Each scratch told a story. That time they hunted a giant deer. That fire they started in the rain. That fight they survived against a rival clan. A tool wasn't just useful. It was history. Kid tools, yes, they had. Young ones didn't get full-sized spears. That's just dangerous. But they had mini versions. Little digging sticks, blunt rock toys, wooden pretend knives, tiny satchels made from bark. It wasn't playtime. It was practice. From age 4 or 5, kids were already shaping stones. By 8 or 9, some could craft real arrowheads. School? Nope. Just hands-on learning. Literally. Cavemen were inventors. Over time, tools got smarter. One day someone figured out, if I tie a rock this way, it cuts better. If I make the handle curved, it swings smoother. If I sharpen both ends, I can poke and slash. And boom, innovation. We're talking about the first hammers, the first bows and arrows, even early fishing hooks made from bones. These tiny ideas turned into major advances. And honestly, cavemen were better engineers than we give them credit for. Weapon crafting, not just for hunting of course, some tools were made to kill. Not animals, but other humans. tribal clashes happened. Territory fights. Resource fights. Revenge fights. And for those, you needed spears with barbed edges, clubs thick and heavy, throwing stones shaped just right, slingshots using twisted leather. War wasn't daily. But it was real. And if your tools were weak, you didn't survive long. Tool decorations, yes, really, some cavemen even decorated their tools. They carved symbols into handles. Dyed the wood with berries. Wrapped beads or feathers at the end. Why? To show ownership, for good luck, as tribal identity, or just because it looked cool. You wouldn't believe how much pride a caveman had in his favorite axe. Like a prized phone today, but heavier and more dangerous. Where did they store it all? There were no garages. No toolboxes. Most tools were kept inside satchels made of skin hung on wall pegs, sharp stones jammed into cave walls, buried near sleeping areas, hidden under rocks for safety. Losing a good tool was like losing a limb. That's why some even slept next to their favorite knife. Comforting, right? Tool time was daily. Every morning, after breakfast, a caveman would check his tools, fix broken ones, sharpen dull blades, maybe make a new one. It was like brushing your teeth, a regular habit. Without it, you were just a hairy person with no defense. And in the wild, that's a terrible idea. Without tools, there's no civilization. Every modern machine, every knife in your kitchen, every rocket in the sky. It all started with a rock, a stick, and a very patient caveman. They were the OG creators. Tinkerers. Carvers. Inventors. Artists. With no manuals. No tutorials, just instinct and trial. And thanks to them, humanity didn't just survive. It built something. Our caveman is dressed, fed, and armed with tools. Now it's time to face the wild. Not alone, never alone. Because hunting was no solo mission. It was a strategy. A system. A team sport with no jerseys, but lots of yelling and running. Let's join the tribe, quietly. The sun climbs higher. The fire crackles faintly in the background. And the cave is temporarily empty. Why? Because the hunters have left. Somewhere in the dense forest, a group of men, sometimes women too, are walking barefoot, eyes scanning the ground. Each step is careful. Each movement silent. The only sound is the soft crunch of leaves and the occasional cough no one wanted to make. They're not hiking for fun. They're tracking their next meal. Hunting wasn't daily, but it was everything. Cavemen didn't hunt every day. Why? Because it was exhausting. Dangerous. And sometimes, unsuccessful. If they caught a big animal, it could feed the group for days. But if the last meal was finished, and the berry stash was gone, it was time to gear up. It was never a "who wants to go" moment. It was a "we need to, or we go hungry" decision. The hunting squad, a hunting group, usually had 3 to 6 adult males, strong, fast, experienced, 1 or 2 teenagers, learning the ropes, sometimes a woman with tracking skills, 1 elder who stayed behind but gave wisdom before the hunt. Each person had a role. Trackers spotted prints and animal poop, yes, they sniffed it. Throwers carried spears or slings, chasers pushed animals into traps, observers watched from trees or rocks. It wasn't just brawn, it was brains, too. The prep, planning without a whiteboard before stepping into the forest, the group huddled. Not around a map, not with drawn plans. But with gestures, grunts, and dirt drawings. One guy drew lines in the soil with a stick. Another mimed a deer's steps. Someone pointed toward the river. Someone else mimed throwing a spear. That was enough. A full plan, in silence. Then they rubbed dirt on their faces for camouflage, checked their gear, and moved out like ancient commandos. Reading nature's clues, cavemen were better trackers than modern detectives. They read footprints in the mud, broken twigs in bushes, animal fur on tree bark, bugs buzzing, more bugs equals blood nearby equals injured prey, bird calls changing tones when a predator moved they didn't guess. They knew. Nature was their guide. And every squirrel jump or rustling leaf told a story. The target, big, medium, or small. It depended on the day. Some days they aimed for big deer, lots of meat, but fast boars, aggressive and scary rabbits, easy, but not filling birds, tricky but everywhere fish, a calmer option, but you needed tools, and on really bad days, grubs, frogs, lizards, or bugs. Not ideal, but protein is protein. Teamwork was everything. Let's say they spotted a deer. The group instantly split up, like a dance they'd practiced since birth. 2 chasers moved forward to scare it, 1 climber went up a tree to guide direction, 2 throwers flanked it from the sides, 1 person circled behind with a spear. There were no whistles. No calls. Just instinct. They herded the animal toward a trap, a cliff, or a waiting spear. And when it worked? Success. The kind that made the whole tribe eat and smile. It didn't always work. Sometimes the animal escaped. Sometimes it fought back. Sometimes someone got injured. There were bruises, broken bones, bites. If things went wrong, they didn't cry, they regrouped. Try again tomorrow. Change the path. We learned something. And if they did catch something small, it was still a win. In the Stone Age, any food was good food. Tools and action on the hunt, tools mattered more than ever. Spears were long, sharp, and deadly if thrown right. Slingshots flung rocks at incredible speed. Bolas, rocks tied with vine, wrapped around legs. Clubs smashed if things got too close. Traps were preset, pits or nets made from vines and sticks. But the real weapon? Timing. 1 wrong second, and everything failed. The final blow. When the prey slowed or fell, the group circled. One approached, ready to strike. Not for sport, but with respect. They took the animal's life with 1 blow. No cruelty. No waste. Then, silence. Many tribes believed the animal's spirit must be honored. Some whispered words. Some touched the ground. Some simply closed their eyes. It was never taken lightly. The carry back home. Imagine carrying a 120-pound deer for 3 miles, with no roads. They used vine ropes, wooden poles, team lifts with shoulder straps. They grunted, joked, sometimes sang. Back at camp, cheers rose as they returned. Children ran out to see. Elders nodded in approval. The fire crackled louder. Dinner was about to get real. After the hunt, meat was roasted slowly, bones were cleaned for tools, fur was saved for clothes, organs were shared, yes, even the weird ones. Fat was used as fuel or lotion. Really, nothing went to waste. Not even the teeth, often turned into jewelry. Stories around the fire that night. The hunters sat tall. Even if they got nothing, they shared tales. I almost had it. You should have seen how fast that boar was. Next time, we try the North Trail. The group laughed, listened, learned. Because hunting wasn't just survival. It was tradition. Connection. Teamwork in its oldest, purest form. Hunting may steal the show, but behind every full belly was a gatherer who knew the forest like the back of their dirt-covered hand. Let's follow the foragers, the Stone Age snack hunters who fed the tribe without ever throwing a spear. While the hunters charged through the forest with sharpened sticks and heroic grunts, another group moved through the trees with gentler steps. No shouting. No sprinting. No blood. Just eyes scanning the ground, fingers brushing leaves, and woven baskets slowly filling with the treasures of nature. These were the foragers. Mostly women, sometimes elders, often children. The quiet, careful, observant ones who turned bushes into buffets. Why foraging mattered more than you think. You might think hunting was the main food source. But here's a surprise: foraged food made up 60 to 80% of the tribe's diet. Because let's face it, hunting was risky. You might come back empty-handed. But foraging? Even a slow day gave you berries, roots, edible leaves, nuts, mushrooms, fruits, seeds, and the occasional bug. Yes, they counted. No chasing. No bleeding. Just peaceful picking and chewing. The tools of a forager: you didn't need weapons, but you still needed gear. A classic forager carried a woven basket, made from reeds, bark, or vines, a digging stick for yanking stubborn roots, a flat stone blade to cut stems, a pouch for smaller items, a sharp nose for sniffing freshness. No plastic bags. No checkout counters. Just your instincts and your feet. How they knew what was safe, here's where it gets impressive. Foragers weren't guessing. They had real knowledge. They knew which berries were ripe, which leaves were bitter, which mushrooms made your belly hurt, which roots needed roasting to remove toxins, and which fruits were only edible after monkeys took a bite first. This wisdom was passed down through watching elders, tasting carefully, making mistakes, mild ones, hopefully, listening to tribe legends and sometimes dreams, nature talks. They said foraging was a group activity, no one foraged alone. You'd go in small teams, 2 to 6 people. While some scanned trees, others scanned the ground. Children stayed in the middle. Elders walked slowly, pointing at plants with their sticks. Sometimes, they sang softly. Not for fun, but to keep track of each other's locations. Their songs were like gentle GPS signals through the forest. What they found, and ate, depending on the season and location, they collected berries, blackberries, elderberries, gooseberries, nuts, acorns, chestnuts, walnuts, if they had rocks to crack them, roots, yams, tubers, wild carrots, fruits, figs, wild apples, date seeds, grass seeds, sunflower, wild grain leaves, dandelion, nettles, carefully, sorrel mushrooms, carefully picked by those who really knew, insects, ants, termites, beetle larvae, crunchy, protein-rich, and if they got really lucky, a honeycomb tucked in a hollow tree. That was like winning a prehistoric lottery. Foraging took time. This wasn't a 15-minute trip. They'd walk for hours, stopping at every patch of green, every bend in the trail, every tree with low branches. Sometimes, they'd climb trees. Sometimes, they dug deep holes. Sometimes, they followed animals, like monkeys or birds, to find the best spots. They didn't just look. They studied. They remembered which areas gave what, and when. Their memory maps were better than Google. A peaceful, sacred job. Foragers weren't loud. They didn't rush. They walked quietly, listened to the forest, and often spoke to the plants. Yes, really, some tribes believed plants had spirits. So before picking a fruit, they'd whisper, "Thank you. We'll share you with our family. We won't take more than we need." This respect wasn't superstition. It was survival. Overharvesting meant less food next season. Nature gives. But only if you treat it right. Teaching the next generation, children learned foraging from the moment they could walk. At first, they'd carry tiny baskets. Later, they'd point at berries. Then, they'd learn to smell, taste, touch. Elders would guide with patience. That leaf is too young. This root smells bad, avoid. Only pick mushrooms near ash trees. It was nature school. Every tree a teacher. Every rock a lesson. Danger and the peace. Foraging might seem calm, but it wasn't always safe. Dangers included poisonous plants, hidden snakes, bees protecting honey getting lost, bears or wild cats looking for the same snacks. That's why foragers stayed alert. Every crunch of a twig could mean trouble. And if they heard a growl, they'd freeze. Then whisper. Then slowly back away, because even lunch isn't worth becoming someone else's. Returning to the cave by midday or sunset, foragers returned. Their baskets were full, if not with food, then with knowledge. They'd lay everything out, berries in one pile, roots in another, nuts cracked open with rocks, leaves rinsed in river water, insects served. Well, bravely the group would gather, inspect, and thank the foragers. Because today's meal? It didn't come from a hunt. It came from patience. Nothing went to waste. If a leaf was too bitter, used as medicine. If a seed wasn't edible, ground into paste. If a nut couldn't crack, burn it in fire until it opened. The tribe used everything. Even the empty baskets became cradles, fire fans, back pillows, and sometimes hats, stylish ones. Of course, foragers equals the real MVPs. Hunters got glory. But foragers kept everyone alive. Quietly. Gently. Daily. They didn't boast. They didn't fight. They didn't need sharp spears. They had sharp minds. And in the Stone Age, that was power. Life in the Stone Age wasn't all chasing animals and chewing on roots. Sometimes, even the wildest caveman needed to stretch out under a tree, scratch his belly, and just breathe. Let's take a midday break, Stone Age style. It's noon. The sun is high. The forest hums softly with bees and wind. Somewhere in the distance, a bird sings a lazy tune. And right now, nobody is hunting. Nobody is foraging. Nobody is sharpening spears. The whole tribe is still. It's break time. A moment of calm in a world full of chaos. A pause between survival tasks. Why did cavemen rest? Because rest equals survival. When you live in the wild, you don't waste energy, you don't move just to look busy, you listen to your body after walking miles, digging roots, or carrying a deer. Your legs don't ask for motivation. They demand a nap. So cavemen didn't fight it. They embraced it. No pillows. No problem. Cavemen didn't need cushions or beds. They had soft grass patches, cool stones under shade, folded animal hides each other's shoulders, the original pillow. Some lay flat on their backs. Some curled like animals. Some sat cross-legged and just watched the sky. They didn't scroll. They didn't multitask. They just existed, in peace. What did they think about? Surprisingly, a lot. They wondered, where did the deer run? Will it rain later? Is that cloud shaped like a fish? What if fire could move by itself? Hello, imagination. They didn't have books or podcasts. But their minds wandered, and that wandering built curiosity. These breaks were the beginning of storytelling, dreaming, and even inventing. The sounds of siesta you might hear, soft snoring, a baby giggling nearby, someone humming a three-note tune, fire crackling, low wind rustling leaves like whispers, an old woman mumbling to a rock. Yes, some believed rocks listened. It was quiet, but not silent. Nature spoke. And the tribe listened. Small tasks still happened, not everyone napped. Some braided vines, checked for ticks, cleaned tools, drew patterns in dirt with sticks, stared into the fire like philosophers, played finger games with kids. These weren't chores. They were calming rituals. Like doodling. Or cracking sunflower seeds. Or watching ants walk in a line and wondering, where are they even going? Children played, softly. Kids never fully rested. Even 10,000 years ago. But they played quieter, tossing pebbles, stacking sticks, imitating animal sounds, pretending to hunt leaves. Older ones made up stories, miming hunts or fake battles using twigs as swords. No screaming. Just soft giggles and quiet chaos. It was recess, but surrounded by trees instead of walls. Some used the time to groom. Yes, grooming existed. People picked lice out of each other's hair, smoothed out tangles using fingers, plucked thorns from their feet, rubbed ash on their skin as natural soap, checked each other's backs for weird bug bites. True friendship. They didn't have salons. But they had care. Helping each other stay clean was part of love and survival. Fire was kept alive even during rest. One person, usually older, sat near the fire. They'd add dry twigs, blow gently, shield it from wind. Why? Because if the fire went out, everything stopped. No warmth, no cooking, no protection from wild beasts, no comfort at night. So even during naps, one eye always stayed open. One ear always listened. One heart always guarded the flame. Elders told many stories. Sometimes, midday was story time. Not long sagas. Just whispers. Once, I chased a boar into a thunderstorm. Your grandfather slept on that exact rock. The spirit of the river once showed itself to me. Kids gathered close. Teenagers rolled their eyes, as usual. Adults smiled with closed eyes. These were soft tales, like mental lullabies. Short, dreamy, comforting. The science of doing nothing. Cavemen didn't call it mindfulness. But they practiced it. They sat with trees. They listened to birds. They watched shadows move on rocks. They counted breaths, not with numbers, but with rhythm. No pressure. No schedule. Just being. And oddly enough, it made them sharper. Stronger. Kinder. Because when the world is always trying to kill you, a few minutes of peace are gold. The break ended naturally, no alarm buzzed. No one yelled, "Back to work." Slowly, yawns turned into stretches. Someone stood up and cracked their back. Someone else rolled their neck and rubbed their shoulders. Children sat up and poked bugs again. The tribe looked at the sky. The shadows had shifted. The forest had cooled slightly. It was time to get moving again. But something had changed. This pause wasn't just about muscles. It was about spirit. They rested. They reconnected. They remembered why they did all this in the first place. To live. To love. To stay wild, and still human. While adults hunted, gathered, or sharpened spears, little feet pattered across the dirt floor. Who were these wild tiny humans? Caveman kids. Mischievous, loud, sticky, and smart in their own messy way. Let's follow them, carefully. Before fire was invented, before the first sharp stone was chipped, before someone painted the inside of a cave, there was a child tugging at someone's ankle, asking, "Can I help? Can I throw that rock? Can I eat that bug?" Yes, kids have always been like that. Even in the Stone Age. They didn't sit in classrooms. They didn't play with toys from stores. But they learned, explored, and caused just as much noise as kids do today. Birth in the tribe. Caveman babies were born into tribes of 20 to 30 people. No hospitals. No nurses. No baby monitors. Just warm arms, soft hides, and the soothing hum of forest sounds. Mothers fed them. Fathers protected them. Grandparents told them stories. Older kids taught them how to catch lizards, important life skill. And the whole tribe, not just the parents, raised the child. A shared baby. A shared future. No toys. No problem. Stone Age kids had zero screen time. But they had unlimited imagination. Their toys included sticks that became swords, pebbles that became food, feathers for crowns, mud for paint, bones as action figures. Yep, everything was something. A leaf wasn't just a leaf, it was a blanket for a beetle. A log wasn't just a log, it was a horse, a boat, or a monster. Learning by doing, and falling. There were no textbooks. No homework. No lectures. But kids learned constantly by watching adults, how to walk silently in the forest, how to hold a spear, not by the sharp end, how to chew roots and spit out the bitter parts, how to start a fire, or at least blow on it without fainting. They'd try. They'd fail. They'd get laughed at, gently. Then they'd try again. That was the only lesson plan. And it worked. Chores? Yes. But sneaky ones. Even kids had duties. But they were fun, or at least disguised as fun. They helped collect kindling, twigs for fire, chase birds away from food piles, gather smooth stones for tools, watch toddlers, while also being toddlers, but the line between work and play was blurry. If a child brought a cool rock, adults smiled. If they caught a frog, even better. Every little success was praised. Not with gold stars, but with a ruffle of hair and an extra bite of roasted yam. Games of the past. Stone Age games weren't just fun, they were practice for life. Kids played, throwing contests with stones, hide and seek in tall grass, mimic the elder, hilarious, not always flattering game, chase the lizard, jump over logs, who can stay silent the longest, parents' favorite. These weren't distractions. They were training. One day, they'd need to run, hide, and throw for real. So the games were serious, kind of. Trouble? Oh yes. Kids back then didn't have screen addiction. But they did fall into rivers, eat suspicious berries, draw weird things on cave walls, chase bees for fun, start fires, accidentally, sneak away during foraging trips, use dad's spear as a javelin. Indoors when caught, the punishment wasn't time out. It was a lecture in growls and side eyes. Maybe a quiet evening without honey. But the tribe rarely scolded harshly. They knew every curious child could one day become a clever adult. Clothing, mini versions. Kids didn't get baby onesies. They wore Smaller animal hide wraps, soft fur cloaks in winter, feather decorations on special days, bone or shell bracelets. Even toddlers liked a little bling, and often nothing at all. Running wild and free under the sun, covered in dirt and laughter. Sleep time for cave kids when the sun dipped low, and the fire glowed warm. Children curled next to their parents. Sometimes on hides. Sometimes on grass. Sometimes on each other. Mothers hummed ancient lullabies. Fathers tapped gentle beats on hollow logs. Elders told stories of the moon, the stars, and the first people who ever spoke to animals. No blue light. No bedtime tantrums. Just the calm hush of a world slowing down. And one by one, little cave eyes closed. Growing up in the tribe at around age 10, things changed. Kids became apprentices. Boys went on short hunts, girls joined foraging teams, everyone learned fire keeping, water finding, and how to sharpen stones. Teenagers got their first real tools. A small spear. A personal pouch. A name whispered by the elders under moonlight. They weren't fully adults yet, but they weren't babies either. They stood taller. Walked prouder. And maybe, just maybe, they stopped eating bugs. Kids were the future. Every adult once chased frogs. Every elder once dropped a stone on their foot. Every leader once cried when a beetle crawled up their leg. The tribe knew this. That's why children were never ignored. They were the next hunters, gatherers, artists, builders, storytellers. Even when they were loud. Even when they were messy. Even when they asked, "Why is the sky so big?" for the 100th time. Because in the world of caves and firelight, children were hope. Forget chefs, forget cookbooks. In the world of cavemen, dinner was fire, fingers, and a whole lot of guesswork. No ovens. No spices. Just raw nature, glowing coals, and a growling stomach. Let's sit by the fire and see what's cookin'. The sun has dipped low. The sky turns purple. The air smells of wood, smoke, earth, and something sizzling. Everyone's gathering near the fire. Because now, it's time for the most important part of the day, dinner. And no matter what kind of day you had, whether you chased a wild boar, gathered berries, or just stepped on a sharp stone, it all ends here, by the fire, with food and family. Cooking without anything. Let's be clear, no pots. No pans. No salt, oil, or turmeric. No gas, no knobs, no, let me check YouTube for the recipe. Cavemen cooked using fire, hot stones, sharp sticks, leaves, herb, smoke, fog, and lots of hope. Crossed fingers. It wasn't fancy. But it worked. The fire was the kitchen. The fire wasn't just a heater or a light source. It was the heart of the kitchen. Meat went directly on glowing embers. Fruits and roots roasted on rocks. Sometimes, food was wrapped in leaves and buried under hot ash. There was no timer. You judged cooking time by smell, sizzle, and whether the meat stopped dripping. If it smelled kind of cooked, it was done. If it was black and smoking, it was very done. What was on the menu? Dinner depended on what the tribe found that day. A typical caveman meal might include roasted meat, if the hunt succeeded, grilled fish on a stick, smoked roots and yams, charred insects, protein-rich, nuts cracked open and toasted, mushrooms grilled lightly, wild berries tossed in. For dessert, every bite was earned. Every crumb shared. Even a small frog roasted on a stick was better than nothing. Meat on a stick, the original barbecue. If someone caught an animal, it became a group feast. The meat was skinned, carefully, cut with stone blades pierced with long sticks held over fire until the outside browned, shared in chunks. No forks, just fingers and teeth. The fat dripped. The flames hissed. The smell? Mouth-watering. No spices, yet it had flavor, wild, smoky, honest. And nothing beat that first bite. No plates, no problem. There were no dishes. No table setting. Food was served on big flat leaves, animal bones, bark slabs, sometimes just directly on the dirt. Everyone sat in a circle, legs crossed, fingers sticky. The cave's walls echoed with laughter, crunching, and the occasional baby sneeze. It wasn't tidy. But it was family. Cooking skills were shared. Not everyone knew how to cook. Some burnt everything. Some undercooked everything. Some somehow caught the fire itself on fire, don't ask. But elders taught younger ones, hold the stick higher, don't turn too fast. If it smells like wet hair, it's not ready. Slowly, each person learned. Not through recipes, but repetition. By watching, burning, adjusting, and finally tasting success. Smoked food equals survival. Meat didn't last long. There were no fridges. So sometimes, tribes smoked meat to preserve it. They'd hang meat above low flames, let it dry out for hours, pack it in leaves, keep it in cool corners of the cave. That way, if tomorrow's hunt failed, they'd still have backup snacks. Stone Age jerky, anyone? Vegetarian? Sometimes unintentionally. If the hunt failed or the meat spoiled, the tribe had a vegetarian night. Dinner then looked like grilled roots, boiled bark, yes, it was a thing, roasted nuts, smashed berries, leaf salad, minus dressing, not glamorous. But filling. And sometimes, people chose plants for spiritual reasons. Or simply because no one wanted to chase a wild pig again that week. The ritual of sharing dinner was never eaten alone. It started with 1. A moment of silence. 2. The elders taking the first bite. 3. Then the rest dug in age order. No one hoarded. No one got seconds first. Sharing meant surviving. Even children offered bites to elders. Even the hunters gave the best meat to others. Because food wasn't just fuel. It was trust, wrapped in smoke and firelight. Funny failures. Let's not romanticize it too much. Sometimes cooking went wrong. Someone dropped food in the fire. A squirrel stole the dinner. The meat turned out to be not meat. A root was way too bitter. The sweet berry was secretly spicy. Surprise. The tribe laughed. Teased the cook. Still ate whatever was left. Because at the end of the day, burnt or not, dinner meant safety. Warmth. Togetherness. After dinner moments, bellies full, hands greasy, backs leaned against cave walls. People sat in silence. Some poked the fire. Some told stories. Kids curled into blankets. And the stars peeked through cave openings. Dinner was over. But the warmth stayed. In the body. In the heart. In the smoke hanging above. The hunt is over. Bellies are full. The stars begin their silent dance above the trees. But the caveman day isn't finished yet. Now comes the magic, stories, drawings, symbols, and shadows. Let's sit near the flickering flame and listen. The fire glows low now. No more cooking, just warmth. Most of the tribe is gathered close, sitting in circles, rubbing tired legs and smiling through the smoke. And somewhere, someone picks up a burnt stick. They walk slowly toward the cave wall, smooth, wide, and waiting like a blank page. Then, with a slow stroke, they begin to draw. The first artists wore fur. They weren't trained. They didn't have brushes. But they had vision. With soot, ash, crushed berries, and powdered rock, cavemen painted deer with long legs, hunters with sharp spears, suns with smiling faces, dots and spirals and handprints and mysterious shapes no one today fully understands. They didn't just doodle. They told stories, without words. Each drawing was a memory. A moment. A message to anyone who walked into that cave, even thousands of years later. How they painted without paint. No art stores. No tubes of color. Just nature. They used charcoal for black, red ochre for red, crushed berries for purple, and blue clay for yellow, animal fat to make it stick, feathers, bones, or fingers as brushes. Sometimes they blew powder around their hands, leaving behind ghostly prints. Sometimes they scratched into the walls with stones. It was messy. It was smoky. It was beautiful. Why did they do it? Not for fun. Not for likes. Not for sales. They painted to remember a great hunt, celebrate a new baby, honor a spirit or ancestor, pass knowledge to the young, mark territory, dream out loud. Cave walls were their libraries, their journals, their photo albums. And sometimes, their prayers. Stories by firelight. While someone painted, someone else began to speak. Not loudly. Not quickly. Just slow, rhythmic words. Long ago, the sky spoke to a boy with fire in his hair. Once, a girl followed a wolf through the forest and found the moon. There was a time when giants walked and the rivers ran backward. Children leaned forward, wide-eyed. Elders nodded along. Everyone listened, as the fire danced shadows on the cave walls. Who were the storytellers? Every tribe had one, sometimes more. A person with a strong memory, a loud voice, a dramatic hand gesture. They were the living books. They remembered what happened last summer, what the sky looked like during a strange storm, which elder once fought a lion with a stick, and lived. Why fire was a gift from the gods and how the stars came to be. They didn't make up stories. They shaped them, from truth, dreams, fear, and hope. The power of listening in a world without headphones, every word mattered. Cavemen didn't interrupt. Didn't scroll. Didn't zone out. They stared at the speaker. Nodded. Gasped. Laughed. Held their breath during tense moments. And whispered when the tale turned soft. It was the tribe's nightly ritual, not just to pass time, but to remember who they were. Storytelling was survival. 2 stories weren't just fantasy. They carried maps: follow the 3 big trees, then turn left at the river. Warnings: never eat the berries under the red leaves. Laws: steal from your tribe, and the spirits will visit you at night. Wisdom: a lone wolf dies, but a pack lives. Wrapped in legends, these lessons stuck better than rules. They taught without preaching. They guided without forcing. Kids joined in after the main storyteller spoke. Kids tried their own. Once, I saw a bird bigger than a cave. My uncle hunted a dragon yesterday. There's a lizard that sings at night, I heard it. Everyone laughed. But no one shut them down. Because creativity wasn't corrected, it was encouraged. Each wild tale was a seed. And someday, those seeds would bloom into real stories others would tell. The cave became a theater. As stories grew, so did the actions. People acted out scenes, made animal sounds, used sticks as props, danced around fire, stomped, clapped, mimed, howled. The cave echoed with drama. Even silence became part of the show. And just like that, the first theater was born. No stage. No curtain. Just dust, firelight, and imagination. When the story ended, there was always a pause. A silence that wrapped around the cave like a blanket. Someone might sigh. A child might ask, was it true? And the storyteller would smile and say, true enough to remember. Then the group would lean back. Yawn. Pull furs up to their shoulders. And let the warmth of the tale carry them into sleep. Stories outlived the speakers. Long after a storyteller died, their tale lived on. Passed from mouth to mouth. Scribbled onto walls. Drawn in charcoal on a rock behind a sleeping mat. And thousands of years later, strangers would find it and wonder, what did this mean? What were they trying to say? Who were these people? And though the cavemen had no idea someone would look one day, they still told their stories. Still painted their lives. Still left behind little pieces of their world. Because deep down, they knew, a story never truly dies. They didn't swipe left. They didn't go on dinner dates. But cavemen had feelings. They laughed, blushed, fought, forgave, fell in love, and sometimes got jealous over a fur-wrapped cutie sitting too close to someone else. Let's explore the emotional jungle of the Stone Age heart. When we think of cavemen, we imagine spears, fire, animal skins, grunting at the sky. But what about romance? What about 2 people locking eyes across a fire circle, both chewing on roasted lizard, wondering, is this love? Because yes, even before language, even before shampoo, love existed. And so did drama. How did people flirt? Without words? Without flowers? Without music or scented candles? Caveman flirting was raw, real, and kind of adorable. They used Glances held just a little longer, accidental touches while passing tools, bringing someone the juiciest berry, sitting a little closer near the fire, sharing part of their meal, the tasty bit, not the burnt bit, drawing something just for them on the cave wall, OG fan art, no cheesy pickup lines. Just energy. Intuition. Nature's signals. Love wasn't just about looks, sure, strength mattered. But so did who could make fire fastest, who had the best hunting aim, who made the softest hide blanket, who told the funniest stories, who remembered to bring extra roots on foraging days. Attraction wasn't shallow. It was practical. You liked who could keep you alive, and make you laugh while doing it. Were there relationships? Yes. People paired off. Lived together. Had children. Slept under the same fur. But they weren't locked into "till death do us part" vows. Caveman bonds were flexible. Sometimes, couples stayed together for life, sometimes they separated naturally, sometimes new partners joined or left, and sometimes, triangles happened. Grimacing face drama wasn't invented by Netflix. It started somewhere around 10,000 BC. Jealousy was very real. Imagine, you like someone. They share their mango with another person. You pretend you're not bothered, but then you roast their lizard tail a little too long that night. Yep. Jealousy existed. Even back then, people felt left out, protective, confused, competitive, but since they didn't have passive-aggressive texts, they had to work it out with long stares, grunts that said, "We need to talk," or just a friendly wrestling match. Seriously, friendships and bonds. Not all relationships were romantic. Some people became lifelong best friends. They hunted together, covered for each other, shared food, sat quietly near the fire, knew each other's favorite berries. Cavemen had besties. And losing one, to injury, to another tribe, to old age, hurt deeply. Grief was quiet but powerful. They'd sit longer at the fire. Walk slower on the trail. Stare longer at the sky. Because friendship was family, too. Family and tribe dynamics. Caveman tribes were like tight families, with a little chaos. You had elders who gave advice, even when no one asked, uncles who taught kids how to wrestle, aunties who smacked your hand if you reached for food early, kids who didn't listen, and mothers who somehow kept it all together with 2 sticks and 0 sleep. It wasn't perfect. But it was deeply connected. Fights and forgiveness. Oh yes, fights happened. Over tools, food, who saw the deer first, who flirted with whose partner, who snored too loud in the cave. Sometimes they yelled. Sometimes they wrestled. Sometimes they just gave each other the silent treatment for 2 days. But usually, they made up. Shared food again. Sat side by side, not saying a word, because that was enough. Were there rituals for love? Some tribes had simple bonding rituals, exchanging crafted items, painting symbols on each other's arms, making necklaces from the same animal's teeth, sitting under moonlight together in silence, or even holding hands during story time. Yes, it's ancient. No priest. No paperwork. Just intention. If you were with someone, and the tribe accepted it, it was real. Parenting as a team. Raising kids wasn't left to one parent. Everyone helped. Elders taught stories, teens watched toddlers, neighbors shared food, dads carried babies in slings made of fur, moms taught gathering, walking, surviving. Love wasn't only romantic. It was spread wide. Everyone was someone's uncle, aunt, or protector. Endings and new beginnings. Sometimes, relationships ended. Quietly. Without drama. Maybe someone moved to another tribe. Maybe they just grew apart. Maybe they found new paths. There were no public breakups. No gossip chains. Just change. Natural. Soft. Accepted. Love in the wild. Cavemen didn't have poems. Or jewelry. Or Valentine's Day. But they had firelit glances, shared meals, hand-carved gifts, protective walks through the woods, silent loyalty in moments of danger, and quiet moments where two people just knew. Love didn't need language. It needed presence. Warmth. Simplicity. And in that simplicity, it was deeply real. The forest is quiet. Too quiet. While some sleep, someone must stay awake. Because in the wild, danger doesn't knock, it creeps. Let's step into the darker side of caveman life, where survival wasn't just about fire and food, but about fighting back. The cave is dim. The fire burns low. Most of the tribe snores gently, wrapped in hides. But not everyone sleeps. In the corner, an elder sits cross-legged, eyes half open, gripping a heavy stick. He's not meditating. He's watching. Listening. Guarding. Because out there, in the trees, in the dark, something always stirs. The world wasn't safe. Cavemen didn't just fight hunger. They fought wild animals, other humans, poisonous plants, sudden storms, and sometimes, the forest itself. The earth was beautiful. But it didn't play favorites. You survived by staying alert. And alertness? That was a full-time job. Who protected the tribe? It wasn't just one person. Protection was shared. Elders kept the fire going, young adults took turns watching at night, hunters kept their tools nearby, mothers slept lightly, waking at every sound. Dogs or tamed animals, in later times, barked warnings. There were no doors to lock. No fences. Just teamwork and trust. Animal threats. The biggest threat came on four legs. Predators included saber-toothed cats, bears, wolves, snakes, and the occasional angry boar. Sometimes they came for food. Sometimes they were just curious. The tribe had to hide leftovers, build fires at all cave entrances, make loud sounds to scare them off, stay in groups, because animals feared numbers. If a predator didn't scare easy, the tribe fought back, with spears, clubs, rocks, and shouts. Win or lose, they never forgot that night. Clashes with other tribes. Not all humans were friendly. Sometimes, other groups wandered too close. Looking for food. Or land. Or dominance. Most of the time, there were warning signs left on trees or rocks, grunts exchanged, gestures made, lines drawn in the dirt. But when that didn't work, things turned physical. Tribe versus tribe. Not with armies, but ambushes, sneak attacks, sudden shouts in the night. Weapons clashed. People got injured. Some didn't make it back. And the next day, both sides returned to their caves, quieter. Defending without walls. How do you protect a group with no walls? You build smart, sleep in high caves, keep exits clear, stack rocks at the entrance, leave dry twigs outside, so you'd hear intruders step, place sharp stones under leaves, always have fire. Always. They couldn't stop danger. But they could slow it down, and that was often enough. Training the tribe from childhood, people learned where to hide, how to hold a weapon, when to run, when to scream, and when to stay absolutely still. Training wasn't formal. It was constant. A whisper here. A quick lesson there. Fear was never ignored. It was understood. When someone got hurt, there was no doctor, no hospital. But they treated wounds with crushed leaves, mud, animal fat, smoke to disinfect, honey. It actually helps. People surrounded the injured. Held their hand. Kept the fire warm. Told stories so the pain felt smaller. Some healed. Some didn't. But either way, they were never left alone. Night patrols. Each night, the tribe chose a watcher. Sometimes two. Sometimes three, if tensions were high. They sat near the entrance. Spears beside them. Eyes open. Listening. They might hear footsteps, wind, a growl, a snap of a twig, or nothing, which could be worse. They didn't panic. Just stayed still. Alert. Because in the Stone Age, calm equals survival. When the tribe fought together, sometimes, everyone had to rise. If a bear entered. If another group attacked. If fire threatened the cave. Suddenly, kids were rushed into back corners, elders stood tall with heavy stones, adults grabbed weapons, shouts echoed, fire was thrown, bodies moved as one. In that moment, they weren't individuals. They were a single living shield. And if they made it through the night, they remembered. They painted it. They told the story forever. Living with fear. Fear wasn't a weakness. It was wisdom. The fear of darkness kept the fire burning. The fear of strangers kept the tribe close. The fear of animals sharpened the spears. They didn't erase fear. They walked beside it. And in doing so, they lived. Morning came with gratitude after a long, quiet night. When the sky turned orange and birds began to chirp. The watcher blinked slowly. Tired. But proud. Another night survived. Another day ahead. Another chance to laugh, eat, build, and breathe. Because danger would always come. But so would morning. And as long as the tribe stood together, they would face both. The world outside fades into black. But inside the cave, a soft glow remains. Sparks flicker. Shadows dance. Voices lower. And slowly, life winds down. Let's join the tribe for one last ritual before sleep. The stars are out. 1,000 tiny lights blinking above the trees. The moon rises like a soft drumbeat in the sky. And deep inside a warm, smoky cave, the day is quietly ending. But before the tribe closes its eyes, there are rituals. Gentle, sacred habits passed down through silence and time. The fire, always the fire even now, the fire burns. Not roaring. Just flickering, whispering. It's the heartbeat of the tribe. Warmth. Protection. Memory. Someone always tends to it, an elder with a stick, poking it gently, feeding it just enough to survive the night. And everyone else? They sit around it. Not in rows. Not in order. Just, close. The circle gathers, no one says, it's bedtime. The tribe knows. They feel it. Children crawl into their parents' laps. Teenagers lean against each other. The old ones sit on flat rocks, back straight, eyes half closed. It's quiet. No one rushes. No one speaks unless needed, just crackling flames, the soft whoosh of wind outside, and a rhythm of slow breathing. Last words of the day. Sometimes someone tells a short story. There once was a bird who flew too high. I saw a strange light near the river today. When I was a boy, I fell from a tree and the tree forgave me. Sometimes someone sings. Not loudly, a hum, maybe. A wordless melody. A lullaby passed from grandmother to granddaughter to the stars. Sometimes they say nothing. And let the fire speak instead. Cleaning the day from the mind. Cavemen didn't journal, but they processed the day in their own way. Some watched the flames and remembered what they saw, a deer, a storm, a new plant. Some whispered thanks to ancestors. Some quietly rubbed their hands together, a gesture of release. Some stared at cave paintings like photographs of memory. Their minds settled. Like ash falling softly on wood. Gratitude in the darkness. No one said, "What are you grateful for?" But it was there. Gratitude lived in the warmth of the fire, the safety of the group, the leftover meat from dinner, the child breathing beside them, the stars still showing up, no matter what. Without words, they felt it. That simple, heavy happiness of still being alive. Prayers without language. Some tribes had gods. Some had spirits. Some had the wind. But most had rituals, things they did every night to keep the world soft. Throwing a pinch of ash into the fire, placing a stone at the cave's edge, drawing a circle in the dirt with a finger, humming a note 3 times before lying down. These weren't rules. They were comforts. Tiny things that said, "We're safe now. We're okay." Sleeping arrangements. There were no beds. No rooms. No my side or your side. People slept, on fur hides, on moss, on each other, on warm flat stones. Children in the middle. Elders near the fire. Hunters near the entrance, just in case. Everyone was close. Not just for warmth, for peace. To hear each other's breaths. To know no one was alone. Sounds of sleep. As the night deepens, the cave becomes a quiet concert. A baby sighs, someone coughs once, then settles. Feet shuffle under fur, a stomach growls, someone still a little hungry. Fire cracks gently, the wind outside sings through leaves, and slowly, slowly. One by one. Eyes close. What they dreamed about. No one wrote dreams down. But they had them. Big dreams. Small dreams. Wild ones and quiet ones. They dreamed of the hunt they missed, the ancestor they never met, the cave that glowed in the sky, a place where water was warm and the berries never ran out, a giant lizard that could talk. Weird, but common. Dreams weren't just pictures. They were lessons, stories, visions, messages. And sometimes, when someone woke up suddenly, they'd whisper, "The dream told me where to go." And the tribe would listen. A tribe that slept together. This was the end of the day. Not with a bang. Not with applause. But with togetherness. A circle of people wrapped in hide and silence. Guarded by flames. Cradled by the earth. Held by stars older than memory. No machines. No clocks. No noise. Just rest. Real rest. The kind that says, "You did enough today. You're here. You're safe." They had no teachers. No books. No YouTube. No wise guy with glasses pointing at a chalkboard. And yet, they survived. Thrived. Built things. Found food. Avoided poison. Knew when to run. And when to fight. Let's explore the ancient mind, where instinct and experience wrote the lessons. How do you know how to make fire, if no one ever taught you? How do you find water in a dry forest, or remember which berry made Uncle Bogo sick last year? Simple, you learn by watching. Failing. Repeating. Remembering. Cavemen had no schools. But the whole world was their classroom. Lessons were lived from birth. You learned by watching your elders, copying your siblings getting hurt, but not too hurt, hearing stories repeated every night, feeling the rhythm of tribe life. There were no lectures. Just eyes. Hands. Time. And if you forgot something important, you'd be reminded, by a stomachache, a broken bone, or a very angry bee. Memory was the library. They didn't have shelves of books. But every elder's mind held years of knowledge. They remembered the path to the good waterhole, how to trap a fish without bait, the smell of a safe route versus a deadly one, what the sky looked like before a storm, how to bandage a wound using tree sap, and they passed it on, not with notes, but with stories. Actions. Repetition. Over and over. Until even the youngest could do it with their eyes half closed. Watching was learning. A child might spend an entire morning just watching. How dad holds the spear, how grandma gathers mushrooms, how big cousin ties the hide around her waist. Every motion meant something. And once the child tried it, and messed it up, of course, someone would help, not scold. Because mistakes were the teacher. They used all their senses. Cavemen didn't just look. They listened for animal footsteps, smelled for danger in the wind, tasted new food, tiny bites at a time, touched rocks to check if they'd spark, felt the earth's mood through their bare feet. Their bodies were their tools. Their brains were always on, quietly, constantly learning. The tribe was the school. Everyone taught. Everyone learned. There was no top of the class. Just who was better at making tools, who always found sweet fruit, who could start fire fastest, who could find their way home blindfolded. Each skill was respected. Each person had something to offer. You didn't compete. You contributed. Dreams were teachers too. Cavemen didn't just learn by doing. They learned in their sleep. They believed dreams were messages from ancestors, warnings from nature, clues for the future, visions to follow. If someone woke up and said, "The dream told me not to go east," the tribe might change direction. Because learning came from within, not just from outside. Decisions were made together. When it came to tribe decisions, like moving camps or preparing for winter, everyone had a voice. The process was slow, calm, filled with gestures, eye contact, firelight, and silence. The oldest might speak. The sharpest hunter might disagree. The quiet forager might whisper a reminder. And slowly, a decision would emerge, like smoke rising from the fire. It wasn't rushed. It was felt. Agreed upon. Trusted. No rules, just patterns. There weren't laws like today. But there were unspoken patterns everyone followed. You just knew. Don't eat first if you didn't help gather. Don't wake a sleeping baby. Don't take another person's spear without asking. Don't lie, because someone always finds out. Break these patterns too often. You'd face cold stares, fewer bites of dinner, no one helping when your firewood got wet. The tribe didn't punish. It responded. Quietly. Clearly. They understood the sky, the land, and time without watches or calendars. They still knew. When seasons changed, how to count moons, where the stars pointed, when the birds migrated, when roots were ready to pull. They didn't explain it in words. They felt it in their bones. The earth taught them. And they listened. Learning never stopped. You didn't stop learning at 18. Or 30. Or 70. Elders learned from children's discoveries. Hunters learned from storms. Mothers learned from herbs. Even fire taught them something new, every night. It was lifelong curiosity. No pressure. No pride. Just people becoming wiser every day, through the most human way possible. Living. We've walked with them. Sat beside their fires. Watched them hunt, eat, rest, love, and dream. But as we return to our own world of screens and cities, a quiet question remains: what parts of the caveman still live in us? Thousands of years have passed. We wear shoes. We sleep on beds. We press buttons instead of lighting fires. But underneath it all, we're still a little wild. A little ancient. A little caveman. Let's take a slow walk through everything we've inherited, without even realizing it. We still wake with the sun even with alarm clocks, blackout curtains, and late-night scrolling. Our bodies still feel the sun. That pull to rise when it's bright. That instinct to slow down when it's dark. That stretch. That yawn. That blink at the sky. Just like our ancestors, our internal rhythm is tuned to the earth. We still gather around warmth today. It's cafes, couches, campfires, and phone calls. Back then, it was flickering flames and shared silence. But the desire is the same: to sit in a circle. To be close. To talk softly. To feel seen, whether it's a weekend dinner or just a group text thread. We still crave connection, just like the tribe. We still share stories. The setting has changed, not caves, but cinemas, not paint, but pixels, not campfires, but comment sections, but storytelling. It's stronger than ever. We watch movies. We whisper secrets. We post photos. We tell jokes at dinner. We read bedtime stories to our kids. Because humans don't just live to survive. We live to remember. To share. To say, this happened. Just like they did, in smoke-filled caves with sticks and symbols. We still learn by watching. Before classrooms, there were campfires. Before textbooks, there were people doing things, over and over, until others learned. Even now, kids learn by copying. We imitate role models. We peek at tutorials. We ask questions. We get it wrong. We try again. The method hasn't changed. Only the setting. We still feel the wild even if we live in cities. Something inside us still remembers the forest. That calm that comes from trees. That thrill of thunder. That peace in silence. That hunger for stars. When we camp. When we hike. When we lie in bed and listen to rain. A small, ancient voice whispers, "Ah, yes. This feels right." We still protect our people, whether it's a sibling, a child, a friend. We guard. We defend. We watch over. Just like cavemen took turns keeping night watch, we stay up when someone's sick. We check the doors before sleeping. We text, "Let me know when you reach." We worry. We prepare. We shield. Because our tribe may be smaller now. But the instinct? Still strong. We still fear the unknown. It's not saber-toothed cats anymore. It's bills. Deadlines. Loneliness. Change, but fear still lives in us. And like them, we face it. We sit with it. We whisper stories to calm it. They used fire. We use light. Same idea. We still dream every night, no matter our age, our job, our screen time. We drift into dreams. Sometimes strange. Sometimes sad. Sometimes big and impossible. But always deeply human. And just like them, we wake up changed. Quiet. Still. Holding something from the dark that feels like a message. We still rest together even if we sleep in beds, not caves. We still rest near others. In homes. In cities. In the same time zones as loved ones. And in those quiet hours. It's the same. Breathing slows. Worries pause. And for a moment, the modern world disappears. What hasn't changed? We're faster. Louder. Smarter. Busier. But at our core, we still eat together, laugh in circles, raise our kids with help, look at the stars and wonder, sit by warmth, miss those who are gone, fear the dark, celebrate light, chase meaning, love deeply. So maybe we haven't moved so far from the cave after all. Final thought from the fire: if a caveman sat beside you tonight, they wouldn't understand your phone, or your clothes, or your job, but they'd understand your joy, your fear, your hunger, your tiredness, your love, your dreams, and your fire, because under all our upgrades, we're still human. Still tribal. Still searching for light in the dark. And that will never change. Thanks for wandering through the ancient world with me. If you'd like to join me again, don't forget to subscribe. Sleep well, and I'll see you next time in the caves.